Imagine this.
Single bit of information when you have Nibiru in your hand. You don't even need to count yourself.
What are you doing?
Right on the screen. If the Link Synchro
What's up?
Master has fusions, rituals, and exceeds.
Why are you licking the couch?
It's me, boy. I'm the PS5. Leave the girl. Come with me. We'll have fantastic adventures in found footage movies. Hello, and welcome back to the found footage Iceberg. Today, we're covering Tier 2. That's 2 out of... No, there's not that many tiers, are there? 11 tiers. Wow, I just watched a ton of movies. And I tell you what, there is nothing in the world like sitting down and watching like 6 found footage movies in a row without breaks. It makes one kind of feel a little bit like they're going insane. I'm here today to tell you my adventures in found footage films, and maybe by the end you will get a good impression on which ones are cool to watch and which ones are not cool to watch. And that is that. Jack, what the I have things to tell you. 2 things before we get started today. Number 1, this video was very popular, the first one, and I guess that means that I'm back here doing it again, and I've learned a lot. I tell you what, you know, where before I felt like an infant, now I feel like an old person. I am wise in ways I was not. You know how I said that some found footage movies are not a found footage movie? Guess what? I watched a whole bunch more and I realized that it was not the problem of the film that it was not found footage. It was a problem with me. It's kind of a fucking disaster as far as like what qualifies as found footage, and it's one of those things where I'm realizing this now, you shouldn't think about it. Don't worry about that, because most found footage movies are not found footage movies. They're not about finding footage and being like, oh shit, there's crazy things on this footage. Where did the hikers go? Most found footage movies I found are just documentaries or mockumentaries, or they're like the, you know, pseudo documentary style of just weird shit. They're not really like a bunch of people died. What happened? Oh, they left a camera. What's on the camera? It's an SD card. Oh my god, what footage am I gonna find on this camera? They see fucking UFOs and aliens and they go to fucking space and it's me, boy. I'm the PS5. Like, none of that happens. It's just mockumentaries. Some of those, by the way, are really fucking good. They're really good. They're some of the best stuff. I could rag on the fact that they're not found footage movies all day long, or I could just embrace it. I guess I'm embracing it. Sometimes found footage movies are not found footage, and that's better. Point number 2. A lot of people were telling me that it kind of doesn't make sense to review these movies in some sort of qualitative manner. Yeah, they're bad or whatever, but it's just a generally mid formula. Why be like, this one's good, this one's bad? But, you know, that's me just trying to tell people what I think you should probably try watching. The digital camera was considered to be a good and bad invention at the same time. People said that the digital camera would revolutionize film because people who could not afford it, didn't go to school for it, people that didn't have the ability to make film suddenly could go buy a digital camera and just start making cinema, which would inevitably change the definition of cinema, which it did. That's true. It did do that. But it's also a horrible invention. People who generally didn't have any idea of the syntax or grammar of cinema to be making movies, having no idea of the internal kind of logic of movies, the definition, once again, of movies would change. You know, in the cinematic, everything's on film times, successes and failures on the cinematic level, where now you have Skibbity Toilet. Things are not the same. Found footage in a lot of ways, as I've realized, and I think this is going to become the whole thesis of this thing. It is the moment, in a weird way, where a lot of people decided to try their hand at making movies. Many of them did not know what they were doing and did a whole host of weird shit. So we're going to have so much fun getting into that weird shit, and we stumbled into some of it today. And by today, I mean this whole week of my life, because I have been watching found footage movies almost nonstop since I did the last Iceberg video. I work around the fucking clock. Sorry, my dog Gizmo, but I've got to watch some dumb movie, and that's my life now. Hey Gizmo. Hey buddy. You want puppy cup in the car? Do you want to go in the car? Are we gonna go in the car? Puppy cup. Hey Gizmo, do you want to be a famous dog on the internet? You want to be a famous dog? Let's get into the found footage iceberg Tier 2, which as you know is right here, where it's always been and always will be, and we're gonna talk about some weird shit. Before we start, make sure and like the video, give it a little comment, you know, subscribe. Subscribing is cool. It means you get to see the other 9 fucking videos that I have to make in this series and how I will progressively, naturally lose my fucking mind. Consider supporting me on patreon.com/nicksfears. Do that. Like, comment, subscribe, let's get the fuck in there! Okay, one more thing. I just dropped a new shirt. It's cool. You love this new shirt. It's available for the next 2 weeks and then it's gone forever. Wow, look at it. It's so... I don't know how to describe it, I guess. Anyways, you can pick up your own shirt on my Bandcamp. Check the description. There are links. Wow. Tier 2, let's go! Cannibal Holocaust. Oh, come on. I've talked about this movie like 70 times. I feel like if there is one YouTuber who has said the 2 words Cannibal and Holocaust next to each other the most, it is certainly me. If you're a longtime subscriber, you might remember the many other times when I brought this up. You probably already know, but for the uninitiated, I'll make it quick. What is widely considered to be the first found footage movie, but it's not a found footage movie really. It's a mockumentary in the same kind of way. There's like, but it's also cinematic. There's stuff where, but it's directed by Ruggero Deodato. You know, he made a variety of things, good things, trash, you know, kind of, but this is the one that tends to be what people remember. Cannibal Holocaust is a pretty disturbing movie. Many people would consider it to be one of the most, largely because of a lot of scenes of real animal death, other things that you might find in a disturbing movie. It's not fun to watch. I wouldn't say that it's a very good party movie, even though I have watched it at a gathering of people. Weird times to be a... God damn, that's a loud truck. Cannibal Holocaust is technically a found footage movie because they find a camera and they develop the film and then they watch what was on the film, so it kind of is in the spirit of a found footage movie. The movie is like surrounding the presentation of such footage, you know, and the footage shows the people that people thought were like making nature documentaries were actually shitty, and they were staging like a whole bunch of horrible acts of depravity and atrocities and then paying for that by getting murdered. They also eat a sea turtle, which sucks, and you probably don't want to see that moment. The animal cruelty definitely makes this movie hard to recommend, even though I would say that there's a lot about it that is very interesting. Found footage as a language, a lot of that comes from Cannibal Holocaust. You know, there's another movie that's called The Last Broadcast, which is also kind of doing that thing, and then, you know, you've got like Ghost Watch, which which is like way later on the list, that also kind of does some of the stuff. How we got from Cannibal Holocaust to Blair Witch Project, geez, I have no idea. But I tell you what, Cannibal Holocaust is, if we're still talking about it, you know, that's the weird thing, is it's been like so long and like everybody seemingly knows about it, yet we're still talking about it, which means that in some fucked up, terrible way, it has stood the test of time. It remains interesting to many a person. It is a weird, almost cinematic rite of passage where you watch that and you suddenly learn what is possible, and then you kind of cringe at what is possible to do with a camera. And that is Cannibal Holocaust. I try to lightning round my way through this one because we have talked about it before, but that is generally the gist. We're gonna move on. We have the Creep series. Creep, Mark Duplass as the Creep. He's the Creep. He's the Creep. He's a creepy guy. It's Creep. Creep is kind of good. I think Creep is kind of okay. You know, found footage, I guess. Mark Duplass is in it. Mark Duplass is cool. He's weird. He does a lot of weird shit. Some of his movies suck. You know, some of them are pretty good. I don't know. I have a medium appreciation for Mark Duplass. He's like a guy who says he has like a debilitating disease and he needs someone to come be his friend, which is weird, and like film for his daughter so that his daughter sees her father, you know, when he was alive. But then it quickly reveals that not everything that you think is true, and that he's actually just luring people to his house to murder them. He's a very kind of weird guy. He's a creep. He puts on like this wolf mask, and you know, there are moments of what I would call human terror. It's not like there's a ghost. Nothing supernatural occurs. It's not really that kind of thing. The creepy things that a human being is possible to do. A person can be like this. Entertaining / scary. I guess this movie was like way popular maybe when it was made. I feel like this one was kind of on the tail end of the like found footage explosion. People weren't making as many found footage movies, I feel like, when Creep came out, the first one. And of course there is an obligatory sequel, and I do think that they tried to do some interesting things with it. Like they introduce a lady creep, you know, work as the foil for the Mark Duplass creep. Little bit of a romp in there where they're having fun being similar. Objectively not as interesting. Okay, objectively is a word I need to get out of my dictionary as soon as possible. I don't think it's as interesting. My personal opinion is I don't think that it's as interesting. I'm not turning Creep on these days. I feel like I'm not watching Creep an awful lot lately. There was a time where I watched it a couple of times and I thought it was kind of neat. It's kind of neat. I feel like I had nothing interesting to say about that.
What, Creep?
Yeah.
Everyone's seen Creep.
Everyone?
It's like this.
He's a creepy guy. That's his big thing. He's really creepy. The next movie is The Last Exorcism, and let me tell you what, now that I'm really thinking about it, oh boy, a lot of these are like, they do feel very like tier 2 kind of energy, you know? They're not your like staples, forgettables. They're the ones that you maybe you don't know about them, or maybe you do, but you didn't see them because they didn't look very good. That is ultimately what we're doing here. The Last Exorcism is about a guy who is a charlatan exorcist. He pretends to do exorcisms on people. And listen, it's a situation of true irony that he would end up having to do a real exorcism on a real demonically possessed person. Ain't that just wild? Fake man must do real thing. It's like Galaxy Quest. It's just like Galaxy Quest. It combines two things that are way overdone by the time that this movie was made. That is found footage movies on some studio level without anything interesting or weird in them. Exorcist rip-off demonic possession movies, which are still like an enormous thing. None of them are ever interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'm open to being proven wrong about this. I would love to see one and be like, wow, that one was pretty good. But it has been a long time since I've watched a demonic possession movie, and and thought that it was anything other than like total shit. What I will say about it is it has a surprising charm to it. It is more interesting than its own idea. I think that's like the goal of anything that's doing something stale, is to try and be more interesting than the expectation that is assigned to it. I do kind of feel like The Last Exorcism achieves this, because the idea that someone is like an exorcist charlatan is kind of funny. Putting him in, you know, the ultimate irony situation of having to like deal with it for real is kind of funny. But ultimately the exorcism stuff is not that interesting. The character study stuff is pretty good, but that's kind of one of the things that I wish that found footage movies did more of. Have a fascinating character on screen. You know, fascinating characters and relationships ultimately are the bread and butter of what makes movies good. And I think that carries this movie for the first half of it before it gets like kind of uninteresting. I feel very mid on this movie. I saw it the one time in the theater and I had a very mixed to uninteresting reaction to it. I feel bad because so far all the movies have been kind of uninteresting. I would like to make a promise at this point in the video. There is one coming. There is one coming that is amazing. I cannot stress that enough. There is one movie on the list, maybe you can guess it. It was truly amazing. It is at this point, my lovelies, that I would like to tell you about a little game I played while watching this movie with my girlfriend. Or not this movie, but all of these movies. You know, it's pretty fun. Maybe we'll do it for all of them. So I would like to introduce you to the found footage bingo card. Wow, how cool. Here we have the found footage bingo card. You will notice that the free space is "Why are you still filming?" Basil exposition, that is some person who comes on screen just to tell us what the fuck is going on. Terrible CGI. Pervasive, the musical spoiler. This is when the audio cuts out. All score, including ambient noise, gets quiet right before a jump scare. Next is wow, nothing is happening. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It's just that weird middle period of the movie where nothing's fucking going on. We've all seen Paranormal Activity. Voice of the evil. This is when you hear like a low, growly kind of voice that's like, "I'm gonna kill you." That usually comes out of a normal person or something. We hear the evil literally talking to us. Where the fuck did you find this footage? Where the fuck did they find it? Well, how'd you get that SD card there, buddy? A lock-in. We're not supposed to be here. Rock falls and then you can't get out and now you have to do the movie. Next is sex weirdo. For whatever reason, anytime a filmmaker is like, this one's gonna be about some guy who films everything, they go ahead and just make that guy like a sex criminal, filming half naked or often naked women without their permission. Also pervasive. I was shocked at how many films were guilty of this, but it did give me plenty of bingos. So, you know, I stay winning. Next is immature pranks. I'm gonna be honest with you, in all the movies I watched, this one never came up. Next is playing the blame game. You got us into this mess. Well, why do you keep filming? Next is the obvious hidden edit. A whip pan, as it is frequently called. There is a hidden cut in between the whip pan that you are supposed to not notice, but unfortunately I notice. Next is, what the hell was that? Everybody in every one of these movies is constantly having a case of the what the hell was that? The hell was that? Next is the freak out. This is when somebody in a found footage movie has a little panic attack near the end of the movie. And once again, this one's just pervasive. Everybody's freaking out, yelling someone's name. John! 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 Where are you? Running out of batteries. Oh no, the battery on my flashlight's going to run out. I guess this is an opportunity to put in a very convenient hidden edit. Listen, are you guilty of nightmare face? Imagine this. Next is the asshole. This is like one person in the group that's just an asshole for no fucking reason at all. He's just an asshole. Crying while trying to be quiet. The ghost is right next to me, but I can't stop being emotional. Badly inserted glitches. My God, I have broken cameras in my life and I have corrupted footage in my life, and I've seen kind of the glitching effects that can sometimes occur, but it never looks like it does in a found footage movie. Not even close. It's almost as if they've never corrupted footage in their life. Next is we have to keep moving. Turn that camera off. Are you sure we should be doing this? I hate to say that these movies are formulaic, but who edited this? Good, they'll just cut directly on dialogue. Awkward romance. Because we made this bingo card, we filled out this bingo card for most of the movies that we watch. Not all, but most. We have those bingo cards. You know, these things are not always awful, I guess, except for Sex Weirdo. That one's always awful. You know, a movie can be good and also nearly black out the card. Generally, I found that if I'm blacking out this card, then I'm bored as shit. There's no engagement occurring because nothing of interest is happening and everything feels formulaic. So, alright, hello, and next up is Diary of the Dead, made by George Romero, which is kind of weird because there were quite a few movies on this list that were directed by like what I would consider to be real directors. I know that like everybody who's made a movie is a real director, but I mean like we're talking about people who are like tried and true, like people who've made classics. The dude who made Rain Man made a found footage movie on this list. So, but this one is made by George Romero, a man who I met before his untimely demise, and he was very, very nice. I love Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is fantastic. Day of the Dead is okay, and then Land of the Dead is not very good for me, and Diary of the Dead is also not super good for me. If you were to name two things that would turn me off from seeing basically any movie, this is a found footage movie, there are zombies in it, I'm gonna just not want to see it. Found footage plus zombies is just a nice way to get me bored as hell. Like, while I do appreciate a lot of the things that George Romero made, I can't remember the one, but there's the one about the vampire that's really, really good. Diary of the Dead, on the other hand, I don't know, it doesn't appeal to me. I saw it a long time ago, and I don't have an awful lot to say about it. Maybe I'm wrong about it. Maybe if I watched it now, I'd be like, wow, this movie's actually great. When I saw it before, it didn't really appeal to me very much, and it was okay. Next is Man Bites Dog. It's some journalists following a serial killer as he does some serial killing. There are two movies on this list about this. It is kind of about journalistic participation, where it's like you're filming something, trying to get the story out of something. Sometimes things in like people's lives that you're filming happen that are not good. You are in a weird way participating by observing, and so it kind of blurs the line between observational distance and participation with the said crimes. It's also just a charming movie. It's really classic, good vibes. It's an old mockumentary, which is also appealing, and it's pretty disturbing too, partially because it has challenging ideas, and we like a movie that has challenging ideas or is willing to express challenging ideas. So generally, I have a big soft spot for Man Bites Dog. I think so far on this list, if there was one that I'd be like, you gotta go check this out, you know, if you have somehow missed out on Man Bites Dog, you should probably watch it. It's pretty good stuff. Next up, we have something utterly hilarious in my opinion. The next movie is The Devil Inside. The Devil Inside was the worst movie I saw ever, it seems, when I was younger. I remember vividly going to see this movie. This was at like the height of every movie ever that was a horror movie was a found footage movie, specifically about demonic possessions. Very, very little going on. Very little happening in the movie. The runtime of the movie is very short. barely a feature film. It's like very short, a little over an hour kind of energy. And the marketing was like, it's this little movie, is super scary. They like completely aped the Paranormal Activity marketing. And then you see the movie. Like, the stuff in the marketing only makes up for like a little bit of the movie, and most of the rest of it is like either nothing going on at all or set up for some big climax. The most notable thing about the movie, the thing that is the most important to remember, the worst climax maybe of any found footage movie I've seen thus far. My theater was booing the movie, and I've not ever experienced that where I went to a movie and the entire crowd was booing the movie. People were screaming and hollering, hating the movie, because at the end of the movie, after all this build up and all this time, we're approaching the moment where the climax is supposed to occur. The cast of characters gets into a car and is hit by, I believe, a train, and they all die. The camera goes black, and that's the end. The climactic event is over in like 10 seconds. They get hit by a train, and it's like, that's it, the end, bye-bye. I could have never anticipated that anybody would remember The Devil Inside. This list has made me like relive seeing that and how just hilarious it was. No ideas, nothing in it. It was just the most predictable, and then it just ends completely anticlimactically. If it were a parody of found footage movies, it would be successful, because a lot of found footage movies are just this movie. The Devil Inside is total junk, and I think that it's hysterical, maybe perhaps worth a watch just for some cultural anthropology, friends. Fascinating little movie. Okay. Now we're getting into the good stuff. It's time to stop fucking around. Now we're really getting into the stuff that I had not seen, so I had to like watch for the video. Wow, look at that runtime. Jesus, really long video. This is where it starts to get pretty good. Hooray! So the next movie is The Taking of Deborah Logan. Contrary to popular belief, I have never seen this movie, so I had to watch it. It is, agree with me that it is a very unassuming movie. I kind of assumed that it would be similar to a lot of other found footage stuff that I had seen. I was kind of amazed. Was so weird. We had been watching like a lot of what I would consider to be kind of shovel stuff, and then 20-ish minutes or so into The Taking of Deborah Logan, I perked up and I looked at the screen, and then I looked around the room and I said audibly, wait a minute. Then for the rest of it, I was fascinated. It's certainly not without its problems, and of course I did make a bingo card for it. Let me move over here because there's my bingo card for it. Yeah, as you can see, I did win a bingo. It was pretty interesting, all things considered. A lot of that comes down to the weirdness of the premise and also the weirdness of the execution of the premise. It is a documentary about Alzheimer's, which is a nasty little disease. I have had family members undergo the condition, and it is extremely unfortunate. And the film does a pretty good job of setting up how that would work to somebody who didn't really know about it, and then it very quickly twists into this aggressive almost, wait a minute, is it Alzheimer's or is it something else? There's a lot of stuff where it's fear of old people or fear of people with conditions, and that's not generally good. It's not super good to encourage people to be afraid of disabled people. That's bad. It's so weird that it almost becomes something else entirely. The old woman in question starts to become immensely aggressive, harming people and doing very spooky, almost possessed person things. So of course she's possessed. This is a demonic possession movie, and it's just another one of those. If you keep on watching, it's so much weirder than that, and thank God. Listen, I don't want to spoil the movie for those who haven't seen it, because I do actually think you should probably check this out. It's pretty weird. There is a moment in the movie, she opens her mouth very wide, eats a child's head. Those of you who have watched me for a very long time know that I am very fascinated by things that alienate people when they go see a movie, this was one of those moments where I couldn't help but scream, "That's so amazing. I cannot believe that they did that." I lived for that feeling, and this movie gave me that feeling. I got a bingo and I saw a weird movie. I call that a 10 out of 10 experience for me. I had a great fucking time watching The Taking of Deborah Logan. Good stuff. I tell you what, around here it's banger after banger now, because the next one is The Bay, another movie that I had never seen before. I have such news. It's so wild. You saw the bingo card for Taking of Deborah Logan. You saw that I liked a movie that gave me a bingo. You take a look at The Bay. This is my bingo card. What happened? This movie is so awesome. It doesn't do any of this stuff, it seems. Like, I didn't even get close. Wow, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. It was another instance where I like turned on a movie. About 5 minutes into the movie, I perked up and I said, wait a minute, is this movie great? If you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you know about Paleozoic. What if Paleozoics were real? They're based on real things, but I mean, like, what if they were like little bugs that got into your body and killed you? That's amazing. I think that that's great. It's like a socially, like, environmentally conscious documentary about government cover-ups. It is a mockumentary, obviously, but I found out that it's actually based on like 80% true things that happen with maybe a little genre twist. It's from the director of Rain Man for some reason. Very next level stuff. If I'm talking about like the gold standard of what I think found footage, of course, because it's just a mockumentary, this is it. One of the best of this kind of movie I've ever seen, without a doubt. So much stuff that it does is like both emotionally resonant and just generally powerful. Also kind of has to do with COVID, because it's about this like spreading illness that no one knows how to like deal with, and you know, that's ultimately something we all had to endure. It was very scary. We had family members die, and there was just nothing that we could do, and nobody knew what was going on. This movie in a weird way is like about that, but of course it's like made way before that, and it's very predictive of like what that was like. City streets completely filled with it's just empty except for like the dead, and it's very eerie. People getting it and then not knowing what to do now that they have it, and like hoping for their chances, but feeling this like grim, I don't think we're gonna make it. It's an incredibly intense movie, not only about how this happened, why this happened, what happened, but it's like every perspective surrounding this big event, including the perspective of like the CDC. And it's also just really weird. Paleozoic opabenia gets really huge and starts coming out of people's bodies after eating their organs. It's extremely intense. I would highly recommend that you check out The Bay and enjoy it. Enjoy it a lot. It's very, very, very good. Wow, I am already losing my voice, friends. I cannot believe that it could happen, but it could happen to you. And I tell you what, it's a shame that I'm losing my voice, because I have to scream an awful lot right now, because the next movie is Devil's Pass. Devil's Pass. Oh boy. I've hinted at this throughout the video. There was one movie I watched that totally blew my mind. It was this one. Devil's Pass blew my mind. After I watched it, I couldn't sleep for a couple hours because I was just in awe at the movie and what had happened. Before we even talk about it, I'm sure everybody on Earth is currently wondering, what does my bingo card look like? Well, take a look. Oh my God. Like, this was the closest to blacking out the card that I had gotten. And the ones that I didn't get, I was amazed I didn't get, because I truly felt like I absolutely would. I could not believe my eyes. Up to probably the 70% mark, it was just about the movie that I kind of expected. What is it called? The Dolcev Pass? I don't know what's the pass called? I feel like an idiot. I feel like I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Hold on.
Holding for information from the other room.
The Dietlov Pass incident.
The Dietlov Pass. incident. Yes?
Yeah, the Dyatlov Pass.
Okay, thank God. Thank you. Thank you, correspondent from the other room. The Dyatlov Pass incident, which is like a kind of mysterious incident where a bunch of people died. It was suspected to be like an avalanche, yet there were a lot of strange things that went on, and maybe the government covered it up, and there's like a bunch of stuff. So a bunch of college film students decide to go do a documentary on the Dyatlov Pass. So they fly to Russia, and they go there, and then all hell breaks loose. I don't want to spoil every movie on this list and like ruin movies for you, but I feel like if I don't tell you what's in it, you will not seek it out, because you will probably assume, like I did, that it's just any other found footage movie. And you know, for the first like 45 minutes, I really thought that it was just any other found footage movie, but then I realized that it was very special, very, very, very special movie. It starts off, they're in Russia, they're hiking through the snow, there's Yeti footprints, you know, there's a bunch of sex weirdo stuff, like a whole host of sex weirdo stuff. This one is the most guilty of the sex weirdo thing, even though most of the movies I watch seemingly were. So you know, you're getting this like standard stuff. It's just like a whole bunch of that. Very all of a sudden, it takes the biggest left turn ever. There's an avalanche, and then they have to go somewhere. So they find a door. It locks from the outside. They go inside, and it's like an old like Russian military test site. No shit. Okay. No shit. They find like time traveling vampires, and they really set up that it would probably be like Sasquatches, but no, time traveling vampires, people that have time traveled, and it has turned them into garish horrors. They have to fight against these time vampires, and I tell you what, they look fucking terrible. Like, they look terrible. I have seen a lot of bad CG in my life, but around this time, this CG, it was amazing. And not only that, but they did like entire CG shots, took a background in like After Effects or whatever, added camera shake to hide the CG, but you're not hiding that. So awful. The main characters, they hide in a room and they find a fucking time portal. They find a time portal at the Dyatlov Pass. And then they have to like go through the portal to escape the time vampires. And then when they do, they go back in time to the Dyatlov Pass and become the time vampires that they were running from. It is unfucking believable, off the wall, and weird that it becomes amazing. There was a fairly standard found footage movie going on up until a very distinct point when it left turned into schlock so fast it will make your head spin. I could not believe this movie. Devil's Pass, huge recommendation. Again, I would love to show you my bingo card. Like, I won in like 6 places. This was a huge win for me. If I was a betting person, I would be fucking rich. Anyway, so Devil's Pass was pretty good. I think it was pretty good. To tell you the truth, I thought it was pretty good. Oh, wouldn't you believe it? There's like a hell of a lot of movies left. We got a lot to go, and I sure am taking quite a long time. But the good news is the next movie is The Pyramid, and The Pyramid is very quick and easy to talk about. Let's just show the bingo card. The Taking of Deborah Logan gave me a bingo, but it was pretty good. We take that. The Pyramid gave me a bingo, and it was dog shit. I was telling you earlier that there are movies that push the boundaries of like what constitutes a found footage movie, because maybe it's just a documentary or whatever. This movie pushes the boundaries of both documentary and found footage. A ton of the shots in the movie were just simply filmed by filmmakers. Like, there's this one moment where a character has like a headlamp camera and is ascending this little piece of cavern and gets to the top of it, looks down a hallway, and then there is Subsequently, a camera at the end of the hallway as she is attacked by a rat, and that camera definitely did not belong to anybody who was present, so it wasn't like they were like filming a documentary and something crazy happened. It's not like it was found footage. It was literally just a filmmaker decided to put a camera there, and this completely breaks the illusion that any of this was at any point meant to be anything more than just a movie. This one was bewildering because it didn't follow its own cinematic language, and at some point it completely gives up on this. This was fascinating to me. It could take all the tropes of found footage, all the bad stuff, and then like not even do the one thing that appeals to people who want to see found footage. It like didn't even try to do that. The Pyramid is like not a very good movie. I think that that's like easy to assume, even if you were on the outside. If you saw that this movie was like coming out near you, you would probably think, wow, that movie does not look very good. The movie follows some archaeologists who discover a pyramid in Egypt. They go into the pyramid, and then all hell breaks loose when walls fall apart. There are traps. Everything is very, very badly filmed and dark. And then all of a sudden, they realize that they are being chased by, drumroll, Anubis, the ancient god, who is the worst CG monster you'll ever see in your entire life. It doesn't convince anybody of anything at any point. So much so that you wonder why they even made it, because they show Anubis an awful lot in the movie. He looks super duper bad, and you're like, why then? If this was the whole angle of making this movie, like who wanted to make this? And if they did, why would they want to make it like this? I just genuinely don't understand why such a major part of the movie is so terribly inserted into the movie. It feels like they had to have started with the idea that Anubis would make an appearance, but they didn't think like maybe we should make him cool. It's super, super lame. And if I had a word for this, it's just lame. It's just the lamest movie I ever did see. So that's the quick and easy version. The Pyramid fucking sucks ass. It is so bad. Hopefully, other movies on the list will be better than The Pyramid. At present, I cannot imagine watching a movie worse than The Devil Inside or The Pyramid. Those two, in my mind, are like the gold standard of trash. Somebody said that like all found footage movies are mid, so why would you like try to rate them on any kind of scale? And generally, I agree. It is amazing when a found footage movie can impress me for being bad. In a lot of ways, I do kind of expect that a lot of them would be bad. This just like blew my mind. I like couldn't believe it like the lows that we could find, that it could be so bad. And I know that that's not like a super interesting talking point, calling a movie bad. It's like weird, but it's weird in ways that frustrate you. And I found the whole experience just very frustrating. Hello. Okay, so if it's darker outside now. That's because I went to go see the new film Cuckoo in the theater because my voice was going out, and I need and also look at it's been rainy, my hair looks so anyway, so we're gonna continue the Iceberg now where we left off. Behind the Mask, the rise of Leslie Vernon. So I saw this movie a very, very long time ago. There was a hype for it. I don't know, was there a hype for it? I rented this movie from Blockbuster. That's how long ago it's been. And I guess I didn't have like a ton of interest in rewatching it, I guess. But it is interesting. It is weird. It's a very weird idea. This one, I feel like this one goes out to the horror nerds out there. It's another one of those things where it's, not really a found footage movie, but it's like a mockumentary. But I guess we're lumping those things into the same category for this list. So that's where we're at. It's like a man bites dog about a serial killer, and he's like kind of sympathetic, kind of funny. He's like not very good at it. I think at first he doesn't have the reputation that he would like. So of course he consults Robert Englund and like other people at different points to be like, how do I become the ultimate nightmare? I'm so lame. Him trying to develop his reputation, and then by the end of the movie he's developing his reputation by attacking, I believe, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, the documentary team. It's fine, you know. I remember this movie being kind of funny when I was younger, but also I don't know, I feel like it was very fandom-y. You like stuff like, you know, old school slasher movies, and this movie is kind of playing around with the concept of old school slasher movies and trying to kind of have fun with that concept, and you know, I think to a lot of people it was fun. I certainly remember the movie, you know, I think about the movie somewhat frequently. I would say that it's not one of those movies from like hellas ago that has just like left my mind in the way that like something like The Last Exorcism has just like vanished from my mind after so much time. Overall, it's pretty good. I know a lot of people like super love this even now. Like this movie still kind of has a little bit of a cult thing going on. I think that in and of itself kind of backs up the go check it out, the recommendation that would naturally come from such a concept. It's like people love this now, it's still kind of a cult thing, and you know, it's weird enough. Maybe check it out. I don't know, like maybe it's for you. It's kind of cool that people still fuck with it even now. And when I mentioned that I was doing this Iceberg, a lot of people were like, hey, that's gonna be on the list. It's very exciting that I get to hear your opinion on it. And my opinion on it is it's good. I don't have like a massive love for it, but it's good. My hair is so unruly. Whenever it rains, my hair just like clumps up crazy, and I don't know what to do about it. Nightmare. The next movie is called Afflicted. This one was kind of tricky because it is not available on streaming at the time of me recording this, so I ended up watching bits and pieces of it, enough to feel like I had seen most of the like highlights of the movie or what people liked about it, and as I was watching it, I kind of think I may have seen this before, or at least parts of it. A movie about a guy with like a debilitating disease that gets bit by a vampire and then becomes a vampire. The vampire thing is like handled like kind of like a disease, so he's like very slowly turning into a vampire. In the film itself, like the documentary, the found footage element, if you will, trying to capture his transformation, but also like he gets like super strong and all these amazing things that he can do, but also over the course of time he begins to turn into a vampire in the ways that are not as cool and ideal. I don't know if you can just like run out and find this unless you're, you know, doing some yo ho ho kind of ass behavior. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard a lot of good things, and everything that I saw of the movie made it look kind of interesting and neat. You know, I have a hard time like really saying whether or not, because a lot of the nuances I imagine I probably lost on me because I didn't watch the movie end to end. Looks pretty interesting. Some of the effect work is kind of cool. Tell me in the comments below if it's cool. Next up is One Cut of the Dead. Other ones, you know, I said that they weren't found footage movies, and then I kind of loosened my definition on what it entails to be a found footage movie. But One Cut of the Dead, it's pretty good. Like there's a lot of really neat stuff in One Cut of the Dead, but it is so explicitly not a found footage movie that it makes me wonder if the person that made the Iceberg had even seen the movie. Super duper not a found footage movie. It's both a 30-minute one take uncut shot of people making a zombie movie. The second half of the movie is following the making of that zombie movie and how everything went wrong behind the camera. There are no real horror elements. It's mostly just like the making of a film in documentary form. And in that same way, you could watch something like American Movie, or One Cut of the Dead is very funny in its second half. Like it does does a lot of recontextualizing what you see in the first half. I don't really strongly feel like it's much of a horror movie, and I don't really feel like it's much of a found footage movie. I feel like it's a lot more of just like a straight up comedy. And if that interests you, cool, you'll probably like it. The clever stuff in the movie is the recontextualization, because in the first half of the movie, there's this long uncut shot. It's 35 minutes, something like that. It's kind of impressive. It's like very impressive that they made that. And you've got like all these different dynamics at play. It's about like people making a zombie movie getting attacked by zombies for real while they're making the zombie movie. Irony of that is that pan out of even that perspective, and yet we see another group of people making a zombie movie. And so it's just like extremely meta. And the meta thing is like something I'm kind of medium on. Sometimes I think it's clever. Sometimes I think it's kind of amateurish, I guess. Like it's a little easy. In this circumstance, I thought that it was like pretty cool. I liked it. I thought it was kind of ingenious near the end how they weave all this stuff together. The one thing about that uncut shot is that when you're watching an uncut long take, you have a tendency to think about like all the intricacies that would go into getting that shot. You're thinking a lot less about how much of that shot was just by accident or improv. And then you get to like the later half of the movie, and it implies that so much of the movie was improvised, or they just had to like do things on the fly and things went wrong and then they had to like run with it, and some actors were like overcommitting to their roles, and the huge portions of it were improv, you know, or at least that's what they're trying to imply. So on the filmmaking side, it is like very intricate that they would not only get a perfect one take for their film, you know, One Cut of the Dead had to have this perfect one take, and then also to go back around and convince us that the perfect one take was actually a series of mistakes that led to that one take. I know that the only way they could have done that is if everything had gone right, which probably required an awful lot of work. Generally, I think One Cut of the Dead is like very, very impressive. I don't really feel like it's super a found footage movie. I can kind of see the mockumentary angle. It's not much of a horror movie, but it is clever and cool, and it has horror-ish elements in it. It's about the making of a horror movie, and that in and of itself is almost more interesting, I think, than anything else. Comedy about the making of a horror film, you know, where do you go wrong with that? That sounds great. Trust, when you start the movie, don't immediately shut it off because you think that it's like kind of bad. It being kind of bad is like part of the experience. A lot of the things that start off being bad are later explained in a very clever way in the back half of the movie, which ends up making those things by proxy clever. Remember that everything is intentional and you'll probably have a good time with it. I saw a lot of people like on Reddit complaining about it. I don't get this. It's terrible. The first 10 minutes of it are super bad. Well, yeah, like that's the point. Feels a little weird to put it on this iceberg, I guess. Next up is Lake Mungo, and Lake Mungo is one of my like favorite horror movies just in general. It's another situation where it's not really like a found footage as much as it's like a very convincing mockumentary. A family who thinks that their daughter's ghost haunts their house after she dies. There's a lot of stuff in it that is very convincing, like the daughter's death photos are very convincing. A lot of the emotional weight of it. It is just a wild narrative in general, like the way that things go from one thing to the other paints a very complicated picture of this family and like what they went through and what the daughter was clearly going through, all leading up to one found footage moment where they like look at the daughter's cell phone a week before her death that she buried in the desert. There you see a very, very scary found footage moment, and it's only for the one moment. It's like genuinely one of the creepiest things I think that's in like just about any horror movie, and a lot of that comes from the fact that it was so well set up for so long. They spend so much of the movie building up to this moment, and then when they get there, it actually delivers. It actually really convinces you. I watched this movie with my girlfriend, and she definitely asked me if it was real about 20 minutes in. and I had to tell her that it was not. But I played along as long as I could. The fact that you can kind of not tell the difference at times, I feel like it's the little movie that can. It just does a lot of things, even though it's not doing anything that's that wildly difficult or impressive, which makes it a really strong movie. So this is another one where I feel like if you haven't seen this, if you haven't tried to watch this yet, you're really missing out. Incredibly strong. I feel like you gotta get this one on your list. You gotta get out there. You gotta watch Lake Mungo. What are you doing? You know, it's like a staple in this house, at least. Does it belong on the found footage iceberg? You know, I guess. I don't know. It's cool that it's here because that means that I get to tell you to watch it. So I'm not complaining about it too much. Big important thing about Lake Mungo, watch during the credits because it recontextualizes a lot of the like spookier things throughout the movie into somehow even more spookier. Like there's so many times where they distract you with one fake thing or one kind of spooky thing to show you a different spooky thing. They like explicitly show you in the credits, but for those of us who have seen the movie like more than once, watching every one of those moments back, you can see those like little ghost shots like way more clearly. It's just really exciting to see that they put enough intricacy into some of them to show us both a fake ghost and a real ghost in like plenty of shots. Very cool stuff. They really thought this movie through. So moving on, the next one is The Tunnel. Surprisingly good, straight up found footage. It's just no panache really. It's just the same thing as any other found footage movie really. People go down into these tunnels. They don't know what's killing people in the tunnels, or like they're trying to explore this like homelessness issue. You have a lot of the stereotypes of found footage, but for whatever reason, this one just like does that stuff better, or at least enough for you to feel like, you know, you're getting a movie that delivers on the promises of found footage movies. Has a very, very cool monster and a very neat way of showing that monster to you. It's genuinely another one of those movies that's like very small in scale, but yet does a lot of big things, where I feel like a lot of like the bigger studio found footage movies have a tendency to want to do bigger things, like make bigger promises, but end up not delivering whatsoever because they're trying to make it small and they just fail to make anything remotely subtle. The Tunnel like has a lot of very successful subtle moments, all the while doing like every trope that found footage is known for doing. I feel like this movie is a shining example of like what I think good found footage is, a very cool and moody kind of found footage movie should be. It's a good one to turn the lights off and watch, you know, late at night, you know, when your power's out. Well, I guess you can't watch it when your power's out, but you know, you can try. Maybe you can watch it on your computer. You got to download it first. So you got to know your power is going to go out, and then you can watch it when your power's out. Either way, there are moments in life where The Tunnel just feels correct. It's a good one to watch when you're feeling that vibe. A lot of people don't know about The Tunnel, which I guess is why it falls to the bottom of like tier 2 of the iceberg. I think that Lake Mungo has kind of had a recent sort of reappraisal. I think a lot of people are starting to know about it and see it as like this kind of tried and true kind of hidden cult classic. The Tunnel hasn't really had that. The Tunnel has really never made it into anyone's real radar. I think that's a shame. It should be more known. More people should like The Tunnel. My art for my books, like I'm reissuing them. The art is done by Trevor Henderson, and Trevor Henderson does like a lot of art of like monsters and stuff like this, but The Tunnel, it really like evokes this like Trevor Henderson monster energy, which is just awesome. Like I wish I was seeing that in more movies, like really creative, wild choices that are kind of unpredictable. It's fun for me. I like that. I think everyone should try and check that one out. And I tell you what, I wish we were ending on that, because then I feel like we would be ending on this like huge high note. We'd all be like, wow, 4 of the movies on this list were pretty good. 5 maybe? I got a lot of cool things to check out this week. That would be awesome. But unfortunately, there is one more title and it's also dog shit. Prepare yourself for that. I don't know. Hopefully you do take from this list the good things and you try to give them a shot yourself, because they are, I believe, worth it. Specifically, like Taking of Deborah, Logan, Man Bites Dog, The Bay, you gotta watch Devil's Pass just to have yourself a nice laugh. One Cut of the Dead's pretty cool. Lake Mungo's great. The Tunnel's great. I mean, there's some like pretty solid stuff on this tier that I think is generally really good. And then you got The Gallows, which is our last entry on the list. The Gallows is not good. I feel like I get tired of saying that. I get kind of tired of just being like, yeah, this movie's not very good. I guess that's that. But sometimes there's just like not a lot of thought to be conjured by certain bad movies. Some bad movies, you want to think about them all day long. You're like, yeah, thinking about this is like super rewarding. I feel like I'm learning something about myself, about filmmaking, what exactly makes something bad and good, and where our brain mixes up that syntax. That's fun for me. I like that. But then you've got something like The Gallows, where it's just like, for lack of a better term, and I hate to do this either, but it is junk. It's just junk. It's just shovelware. It's just stuff that somebody made for some mysterious reason, not out of passion. There wasn't much skill. It's not a very well told story. There's no good reason for it to be found footagey. It's just here. It's just here. There's nothing memorable about it. There's nothing so bad about it that's funny. It's just here. It feels like trickery almost, to try to trick you to pay money to experience something that really, it doesn't provide the things that you want when you like rent a movie or you watch a movie, or go see a movie in the theater. And so I say that to say I did go see The Gallows in the theater, and oh boy, did I feel like ripped off. A high school theater performance, but there's like a ghost who was like hung from a gallows, found footage where everything goes like crazy near the end because of this ghost. You've heard this before. You've seen a lot of these things before. I've said a lot of this stuff before, that it's just ultimately not that interesting. If people have heard of this less than they've heard about like the staple found footage movies, we don't have a tunnel situation where people just genuinely missed it and I wish that they hadn't. It was forgotten, and that's kind of okay because it didn't have anything in it that was worth remembering in the first place. It's kind of just junk. I don't know if I would waste my time on this one. I'd probably see any of the other great movies on this list. I fight against the idea that every one of these movies is lame. A lot of people were like, found footage is inherently lame and like none of them are cool and they're all mid. I tend to disagree in the sense that like I do think a lot of these movies, specifically on the tiers today, are worth your time and attention. It's movies like The Gallows that give found footage the reputation that it's all just dog shit. I recommend that you try to give the good stuff a thought and let some of the shovel just pass you by so that you have maybe a little bit more of an enjoyable experience. But if you're like me and you're kind of a completionist, which is probably why I do Iceberg videos, because I want to know all the stuff that I don't know. Like I pride myself on saying that I've seen most of the horror movies that seemingly matter to culture. There are some I've probably missed, and so I'm trying to find opportunities to kind of explore those parts that I've missed, see if there's anything down there that's worth like looking at. But I do understand the inclination to maybe not watch something like The Gallows, to not sour your interpretation of the genre as a whole. I think that we all kind of inherently don't let the bad things about any given genre sour our impressions of like the great experiences we've had with the same genre. Keep an open mind mind, because I assume that there's probably a lot of great stuff coming, and I don't want you to miss out on that for when, you know, things get wild and really bad, because I imagine that from henceforth on the list, you know, a lot of these movies are probably going to get worse. They're probably just going to be more and more progressively terrible until we all die. So you got to hold on to something, hold on to some hope, watch some good movies, you know. Hopefully we get some wild stuff out of it, because I'm sure that I'm going to find some stuff that is utterly bizarre. And you know me, I love to watch things that are utterly bizarre. That's like my whole bread and butter. We have done it. We have watched tier 2 of the found footage Iceberg. Now we will be moving on to tier 3, and what are my expectations here? Poughkeepsie Tapes, The Sacrament, The Den, you know, Megan is Missing, Noroi. There's some bangers in there. I mean, not Megan is Missing, but the other ones are bangers. This one is going to require that I watch a lot more found footage movies, so this one might take a little longer than this one took. I think there was like roughly a week between the last one and this one. The next tier, it might be a little longer. I don't know. I'm gonna try my best. No promises, you know, it might take me a little while. I hope you enjoyed watching tier 2 of the found footage Iceberg. I've been Mayleets, again, just like always. If you liked this video, please consider liking this video. I had a whole lot of people comment on the last video, and it really helped get it out to people that have been watching me for years but haven't seen me in their subscription feeds. So please consider leaving a comment. Make sure to subscribe. I have like 125,000 subs now. I can't fathom the idea of getting to 200,000 subs, but it would be wild if I did that during this series somehow. Share with your friends, you know, make it happen. Maybe it could happen. I don't know. That would be cool and wild. As always, you know, please consider supporting on Patreon. I've been thinking about doing some kind of like Patreon pack thing again, where like $5 and up patrons, I'll like put together a little like card and some stickers or something, you know, write out a little handwritten thing and mail it out to everybody. I think that would be kind of cool. Yeah, if you want to pledge on Patreon, you know, it helps feed me, helps feed my dog, and helps feed my obsession with movies. Also, please consider pre-ordering one of my books. We are so close to these being done. We've had like a couple of minor like late term adjustments on it, but these are being released through Hear Us Scream. The covers are by Trevor Henderson. You can find links to those in the description below, as well as like all my other links. I also wanted to thank everybody for so much support on the gasoline music video. Just once again, thank you all for listening and giving it a shot. Please consider giving my music a chance. I do really enjoy it when people enjoy my music. I've been Mayleets. This has been Nick Spheres. It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'll be back with tier 3 very soon. Sleep tight. Go watch some good found footage movies. Snuggle up to your dog or your significant other and watch some horrors beyond your comprehension. See you later. Bye.